if you're watching this, you probably had a lot of things planned in your life. Getting into medical school, graduating, being a doctor, entering specialty training, and eventually becoming a consultant. And then what? A lot of people seem to be lost in their careers, struggling to figure out their why. We recently saw a tweet, and Am shared it with me, about an ENT trainee who had prepped and planned to get into his specialty, but for some reason felt lost, felt like they made the wrong decision. Maybe you're someone that's felt lost in their career. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So Ams, what did you think when you saw that tweet? Because it was a bit disheartening.
I think it's something that we all do. So, you know, when you're 18, when you're 16, some of us when we're 12 and toddlers even, we're saying we want to become X, Y, and Z. You become a doctor and the emotions are running high and stuff, right? But the truth is life goes on. The only destination that you could say where it's an end point and nothing happens after, right? This is getting philosophical already, but is death, right? Because there's nothing going on after. And then you get to certain milestones and the question of what next comes to mind. And as humans, we're always chasing contentment, happiness, and things like that. When I read that tweet, right, it just reminded me of what someone else said, actually. And I think that's why we've changed our lives to be about the journey and not the destination. So I remember at med school, someone sat me down really early and they said, don't narrow your sort of mission and everything down to that one point after the final year of med school, which is to qualify and become a doctor. Think about the grand picture that you want for your life, your mission statement. And we've met people on the podcast, right? Where they've said, I've got a life mission actually, which is X, Y, and Z. Our friend Akil, if you ask him, what's your mission? His mission has no end point, right? So there is no end point. When we have an end point, I think it's a problem actually. But yeah, I read the tweet. How did I feel about it? It reminded me of how I felt until I sort of reframed how I want my life. One thing, let's talk about one thing which I really want to talk about. It's the emotions you feel as you go through life when it's all step 1, step 2, step 3. So I feel a lot of us medics, we start at school, primary school, and we just go from primary school to secondary, secondary to college, college to uni, med school to F1 to F2, and you might do ST1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, consultant, right? Let's talk about the emotions. How did you feel when you were in medical school and when you graduated?
So as medics, we're trained. It's like this treadmill, right? It's just one loophole after another, right? It's jumping through hoops. And to be fair, graduating was just another step in the process. And it was like a big milestone before the next phase of the journey of our medical careers, right? Yeah. So I don't think I even took a step back or even took a moment to understand what we were doing. It was just like, okay, I need to get to the next phase. You know, pass first year, second year, pass clinicals, get past F1, F2, apply for training, do registrar training, consultant. So to be fair, I didn't even have time to think about. All I was thinking about was the next milestone.
Do you think that creates a bubble though, where it's like destination A, destination B, destination C, and you don't have no time? And then when you enter the real world, suddenly there is, I can actually go in any direction now. Yeah. What do you think about that? What's happening there?
Yeah, so I think medical school is a lot of points or destinations A to B or whatever it may be. And you don't really think about the other stuff. And then once you graduate and then you start to see your colleagues who may be doing something different, then I think, do you know what it is? A lot of realization and reality kicks in for a lot of medics as soon as they graduate.
Like what realities? What realities?
A lot of medics, you know, their first job may be being an F1 or let's say they were in a university in a social bubble with lots of friends and family and lots of support, having fun all the time, you know, no real responsibilities per se. And then suddenly you're working as an F1 with a lot of responsibilities from the get-go, right? And then you're older, right? Think of, you know, you come into medical school at the age of 18, 19, and then you get through it and then you start working and you know what, you're 23, 24. Yeah. Life has changed. A lot of things have changed. Priorities may have changed, right? And I think it's only when you graduate and the reality kind of hits you in the face, then you start deeping it, right? And I think this is where the tweet may come from is you think, okay, after F1, I'll be happier. Or after F2, I'll be happier. Or once F2 is done, that's the bad years of the foundation training, right? Yeah. You know you're going to get murked. After I become a registrar, it gets better. And then you speak to registrars and they're like, yeah, as soon as I become a consultant, I'm going to get better. Then you speak to consultants, they're like, do you know what? I should have took my time with it, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a mentality we're trained as medics to do it. Maybe it's a way to get us through the system as quick as possible.
Yeah, no, that's a big problem. It's the whole deferred thing. I feel like the new generation, obviously, we're taking a bit more time in our journey and enjoying the ride a little bit. But you're right, like saying, I'll be happier at the next thing. I'll be happier at the next thing, the next step. I've even had consultants say, oh, I'm a junior consultant now, so I have to do all of this stuff. But when I'm a senior consultant, and then when I'm a prof, when I've got my own department, when I can do private work, and it just doesn't stop until you hit a brick wall and you're like, crap. So that's the reason I guess we only have this insight, because we talk to so many people. Otherwise, I feel like we would have been trapped in that. How did you feel at that first moment, right, when you thought, you know what? So you've done F1, F2. How did you feel at that moment when you realized, you know what, I can take my life wherever I want? What did that feel like? The first moment when you realize, no, I don't need to actually go from F2 straight into CMT or IMT or whatever it was.
So the whole F1, F2, you do it, you get through it. I didn't even realize you can take a locum out. Only towards the end I realized and I learned about it. I think as soon as I knew you could take an F3, you can take a break from your training path, you could do whatever you want. Yeah. The level of excitement was crazy. Like, I couldn't wait to finish F2. Plus, this is COVID time as well, so that obviously played an element to it. But like, there was a sense of freedom that I knew was going to happen.
Were you scared though that there was no structure or plan in place?
So, to be fair, with the locum and medicine, there isn't structure, that there isn't kind of like in the training path, but there is. You can work, you can go into full-time rota. There is shifts, right? You can build your own structure. So I wasn't too worried about that, to be fair. I was more obsessed with the freedom to do what I want, when I want, you know, having the luxury of picking and choosing when I can work, where I can work. That excitement was crazy, to be fair. So the benefit far outweighed the cons of being in a training program, and having some sort of stability both financially and with a work schedule. The benefits far outweighed it for me. For other people, it may be different, right? So I don't want to really comment on them.
Yeah, I do, but I do feel you're a special case because you like to take risk. You like to dig into the unknown. I think so. I think I'm less risk taking. So if I were to describe my sort of feelings about it, I felt like I had fears of I'm falling off. What if I can never get back on? So, you know, the idea of, all right, I'm going to step away, but what if I never get back onto if I wanted to be a surgeon, if I wanted to be a medic, a GP or whatever, what if I never get that door open back up? So it was a bit scary for me at the time, actually. But going into that tweet a little bit deeper, right? This idea of having to decide your specialty, having to decide what you want to be. Do you have to even decide? So obviously, we've spoken to a lot of people, so we can actually use their insights on this, but do we have to decide at any point?
So, I'll tell you what it is. I think the problem is for a lot of specialties, because it's so competitive, because there's a lot of things to get into it, to get a training number, you need to be very prepared for a long time, right? Let's say surgery, orthopedics, right? You need to have a good portfolio for medical school. You need to attend conferences. You need to do courses. F1, F2, you need to be involved, research, audits, presentations, and you're so caught up in it, right? You've created this world where you need to get into it. You feel it's your end all be all, right? Whereas you don't really need to stick to a specialty you may have chosen, you know, when you were years ago, or maybe it's a specialty that's not, you know, the lifestyle you live as a medical student, junior doctor compared to when you're married, you have kids, may change. And a specialty may not be appropriate for that, right? Yeah. Look, Imran Qureshi is someone that comes to mind that went from GP to surgery to microbiology, and now he's gone to work for like Amazon or have a role in Amazon, right? So I think what medics should do is be more open to changing their specialties. One, if they don't like it, if it's not in tune with their lifestyle or where they want to be or where they see themselves.
Exactly. And to just tie in with Imran Qureshi, Professor Asif. So this whole concept of, I mean, we ask this question all the time, identifying your passion, who you are, your life mission and stuff. The only way you'll find that, right, is through exposure. And I feel like if we set a hard deadline to, I definitely want to be a gynecologist, I definitely want to be a cardiothoracic surgeon, you'll find that you're not actually exploring and find what fits with you. And you might actually end up as a consultant gynecologist or obstetrician or orthopedic surgeon, be like, you know what, I don't like this. And you've only done it because of that thing of, I thought it will get better at the next round, at the next stage when I become a consultant. And really and truly, what fit with your picture was to be a cardiologist, right? So I often tell people who are like, I don't know what I want to be. I always say, go out there and taste what you want to do. So our friend's a good example. He loves surgery, everything to do with surgery. He's tasted surgery, he's tasted outside of surgery, all the specialties, and he's decided, you know what, I want to be a surgeon, right? And he's done that because it fits his profile, his personality. You know, in the entrepreneurship world, we talk about founder market, founder product fit, right? The career has a fit with you as well. Not everyone fits every single career. Imran says it in his podcast, right? You have to kind of decide, do you want a career? Do you want a career and a life? Or do you want a life? And each one is very different. You can pretend to say they don't. Everything in life gives you a career and life. But let's be honest, some things take certain bits away from your life that you can't actually take to the other side. But yeah, what do you think about finding your feet in the right specialty in medicine?
So it's a bit difficult, obviously, because we haven't really done specialty training per se. But what I can say is F3, F4 is a perfect time where you can go out, you can do taster weeks, you can work in certain specialties. And I think even if you don't find a passion or you love a specialty, at least you know which specialties you don't like. So F1 and F2 is good in the sense that you have lots of rotations, right? You cover 6 rotations, 2 years. You can very quickly say, I don't like medicine, I don't like surgery, I want to do this, I want to do that, and then you can explore it. So I would say, or I would advise, unless you're hellbent on a particular specialty, go out there and explore, do taster weeks, expose yourself, because there's a lot of specialties that we don't have exposure to, or in medical school where you realize you love it. You know, stuff like anesthetics, ophthalmology, dermatology, right? These are specialties medical students aren't exposed to, even as a junior doctor. But a lot of people do it and they're like, wow, this is a specialty for me. It's aligned with my personality, with what I want to do with my career. So expose yourself.
On the front of exposure as well, right? I'm also pro exposure for diversification as well, because we need people of different faiths, cultures, backgrounds everywhere, right? Because what happens is diversification is important because it then allows a sensitivity for whether it's innovation or whether it's patient care. So think about it. Certain patients will come from a certain background, have certain beliefs, and it's important that we have diversity, different cultures in all the specialties, so we're sensitive to that, so we can deliver better patient care, right? Patient orientated as well. So that's really important. And on the front of innovation as well, we all think differently, right? If you have different minds in different areas, right, you get to innovate. So one reason why we're pro-exposure, why I'm pro-exposure, is because from a system point of view, right, the system benefits, the world benefits from having different people in different areas. If everyone thought, you know what, forget it, we're all going to end up as in one specialty, then actually all the other specialties miss out on you. So that's quite important. So talking a little bit now about authenticity, right? Discovering authenticity. How do you, so apart from exposure now, you can't say go and expose yourself. How do you discover authenticity? So this whole thing of career and life or life, how do we discover what's authentic to us actually?
I think the best way for this is, where do you feel most natural? Where do you feel at home? Right? You know, let's say certain specialties, or, you know, people don't admit it, but there are certain stereotypes, right? And you can straight off the bat be like, do you know what? I feel uncomfortable here. This is unnatural to me. This is not normal, right? I think a part of discovering what's authentic about you, what's a good authentic specialty for you, is where do you feel most comfortable? Where do you feel like you're pretending, right? There's loads of specialties where, I don't know, you're pretending, you're putting on this persona, you're acting a certain way to fit in, to get on with the day, to get on with the job, to get on with your colleagues, which is not natural to you. So move yourself from that environment and find yourself. I genuinely believe there is a specialty for everyone that is in line with your personality, your passions, your ethos and motivation.
Yep. Not even just specialty, a job, a career that aligns, because medics can go anywhere as well. So on that front though, do you think medics as in all doctors, not just medical specialties, do you think they have an ego? Do you think there's an ego of, I need to behave this way because, I don't know, because cardiology are the cool guys, or orthopedic surgeons are a great club to be a part of, or the greatest people are actually the neurosurgeons? Do you think there's an ego that forces people to go down a line they don't enjoy, and only when life forces them out, they decide, you know what, I can't stick it out?
I don't know if it's ego But I'll flip it and I'll say, maybe medics are not vulnerable enough. In the sense, they're not vulnerable enough. They're not putting themselves out there. They're not being natural to who they are as an individual to be receptive to those specialties or get the right exposure. Maybe there may be an element of ego, but I don't think we're vulnerable enough where when you go to work, a lot of them are, on edge, or they're not enjoying the acting and they're putting on a persona. Maybe if they were more relaxed and vulnerable and open to it, they'll find their tribe, their specialty, whatever they may be. There may be an ego involved, but I think medics are not as vulnerable as they should be.
So I think if you're watching, you have to ask yourself, when you've got your career plan laid out in front of you, right? Is it all down to ego? Are you becoming a surgeon because, you know what, surgery is the coolest thing you can do? Is that why you want to be a surgeon? I partly say this because I now reflect on why I was doing all the things that I was doing, why I was going to certain conferences, and why I no longer want to pursue surgery. Even if you destroyed all my podcasts, the Peerr platform, the Scrubbed In show, everything, right? Even if it went overnight, I still don't want to be a surgeon because I don't see myself fit in with that, right? It doesn't fit with me. But I think I wanted to do it because, I don't know, did it stroke my ego? It's a question I ask always. Anyways.
But saying that, I would go back to surgery.
Yeah.
I would pursue orthopedics.
Because it fits you.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I enjoy what orthopedic is, the act of, I've always been a doer compared to a thinker like you are.
Yeah.
I liked orthopedics. I did a BSc on it. So if I were to lose anything, I had to start from scratch, I will pursue that and I'll double down on it, right? And it felt natural to me, even at work, I just get along with them. I find it cool. I find it sick specialty, right?
Yeah.
But life took us in a different direction. So it's interesting.
Yeah, if I had to pick, I think emergency medicine. I think that's coolest for me.
Yeah, so I can see you fitting in with emergency medicine if it was a natural career for you, right? Yeah. Whereas, or like cardiology, or like one of those.
Cardiology, if it was a medical specialty, I couldn't do the med reg role.
So those specialties. But saying that, the other thing we should talk about is, I think Navarro Ravikant says that as well. You need to love the process. You need to love the journey and not wait for happiness to be delivered upon hitting a milestone, which is very common among medics, right? So a lot of medics attribute happiness, contentment from when we graduate, we'll feel very happy, and it doesn't, right? We found out we graduated, we were in Malaysia. It was anticlimactic, right? The happiness was from seeing your family and sharing graduation with them. Yeah. Or as soon as you get through F1, F2, you feel like happy, but you're chasing the next high, right? Yeah. Or becoming a reg or consultant. We spoke to many consultants that are like, do you feel happy? Do you feel content? They're like, no, we don't feel any same as we were when we were a reg or a junior doctor. If anything, we feel worse. Because the responsibilities and the pressures, right? So this is for any career. I think we need to learn to love the process, to love the journey. And then would you feel more at ease with your career?
So the next question would be then, obviously, the person watching this would say, well, how do you do it? That's easier said than done. The journey isn't always enjoyable, right? It reminds me of when you talk about having all the eggs in one basket. So you told me that several years ago. Why don't you tell the viewers that?
So my theory, or I genuinely believe, contentment, 100% contentment from one thing, which is, let's say you want to be a consultant surgeon, is not good. It's not healthy. But 70% contentment from multiple sources is better. So you don't need to be 100% content with your job, with your career, with your family, with your relationships, with your hobbies. But being content to, like, let's say 70%, we're trying to rationalize things that can't be rationalized, is better, right? And a lot of problems arise when we attribute happiness to one single thing. And that one single thing is so volatile, and you don't know where you're going to be. You don't know where your career is going to take. You don't know anything can happen to you, right? So I don't know if you know about the story about the surgeon who was an anatomy demonstrator at King's, who was a super, like, he was like an ENT surgeon, right? And he was cutting an avocado and he slit his hand through the middle, right? And he can't hold the scalpel properly, and then he became anatomy because he had a passion for anatomy or whatever, right? So if that individual put all the happiness on becoming an ENT surgeon consultant, and look where they are now, they'll be distraught. They'll be so unhappy. But that guy, he's still happy because he loved anatomy, he loved surgery, he loved teaching. So his happiness wasn't attributed to becoming a consultant surgeon. It was in anatomy, the journey of learning and discovering and becoming the best person he was, right? So a lot of medics and I think maybe the system does it, are so caught up becoming a consultant or becoming specialty or a registrar or training number, you attribute so much happiness to it. And imagine things go wrong or things don't go your way. Yeah. That's it. You're going to be distraught and caught up.
So I think one of the major tips for, okay, how do I convert my happiness from being destination orientated to journey led would be diversify where the eggs are in your basket, right? So for example, for myself, some of the eggs are in sort of medicine, because I do still love being a doctor and stuff like that. But it's also in content creation, and it's also in, for example, learning new things, learning new skills. It's also in putting out YouTube videos and the podcast and speaking to new people. It's growing Peerr and asking and bringing on new people and putting content out there, having people learn from it. So I think what's really important to derive happiness from the journey is to diversify where your happiness comes from. Another simple one, right, to make the journey easy is learn how to love the smaller things in life that society sort of neglects most commonly. Exercising, your fitness, your health in general, right? Learn how to get happiness from feeling good about the things that you eat, or how you exercise and becoming fit and athletic and looking after your cardiovascular system. And then learn how to travel the world and every so often take a break, see something that you love, go do an excursion that you love, an activity that you love. So I think it's learning how to take enjoyment from being in the journey and doing different things, rather than just saying, okay, I'm just going to do audits and conferences and be in the operation theatre all day long and become a consultant, and then I think that's going to be my happiest moment.
And I think one thing it came to mind now is Imran Mahmood put a video out, and he was saying, or the theory was, a lot of decisions are reversible. So we think a lot of decisions we make, like once you get into surgical training, that's it, you can't go back on it, or you can't, it's not reversible. A lot of things are reversible. You don't need to stay in a particular training. You can do it. You don't like it, you can leave. You can transition. You can switch over. So many surgeons become GPs. So many GPs go back into training. Look, Imran Qureshi, GP to surgery, right? Yeah. So a lot of decisions in life are reversible. A lot of paths are opened up to you if you're open to looking at it, right? It's that mind grab, right? So what you've done so far is irreversible. You can't go back in time. But moving forward, there's so many avenues that can take you to your end goal, right? So you're starting here, so there's a dot here, there's a dot at the end, right? And there's so many different branches that lead to that. So you can be a consultant surgeon and you're just a registrar right now. And you don't need to do it in 5 years. You can do it over 10 years, but in between the 5 to 10 years, you can go into consulting, alternative careers. You might have a startup of your own. You might do a fellowship. You might do a PhD, right? So I think being receptive and open to multiple branches can lead you to your end goal, and visualizing that and knowing, okay, I might go down this path, I might not like it, I'll come up. I think is a key hack.
I agree with that. So so it's essentially saying don't limit yourself to the time point. Exactly. You can't have on the y-axis time. You have to have something like just journey or whatever, like where I go, what job I do or whatever, and you slowly get to the end. I think what's really important to note is it's very, very easy, and it's one of the most common things that happens is that people read productivity books, life habits books, and how to reframe and how to change your thinking and well-being and all sorts. But how many people action it? It's useless for us to speak about this, right? You can be watching this. Someone can be watching this. And if it goes in one ear and comes out the other, it's useless. It's the same like reading the Atomic Habits book. If you read it, you can either just talk about it, you can actually action it to like change your lifestyle and culture. So I think a lot of importance needs to be placed on, if you are on a journey of genuine discovery and you're trying to change how things are in your life, you have to be willing to take, I think, the biggest step, which is just reframing the way you look at things, and then actually starting to make changes and genuinely trusting the process. You know what? Trusting the process is probably the hardest thing.
Yeah, it actually is.
How hard is it even in this startup game, right? We've got Peerr going. We actually don't know what will happen next year or in 10 years. But my father-in-law said this as well, and he sees me smiling often, and he says, there's one thing that I see that you derive your happiness and contentment of, and it's just purely of the what if. Yeah. It doesn't even matter if it happens or not. The pure thing of what if drives me all the way. And I think that's how a lot of people should look at what if you do whatever dream or goal or mission you have. What if you achieved it? That's all I have to say really on that.
I agree. I think So then this comes to another point, which is, as humans, we expect life to always be sunshine, roses. It's glorious. It's amazing, right? We think once you become a doctor, that's it, plain sailing. Every day is amazing. You're saving lives every day. I can guarantee you are not saving lives every day, right? There are days where you might never have the opportunity to save lives. You might be stuck doing admin, or you might be on a study leave, whatever, right? I think as human, we think everything in life is perfect, and when I'm a victim of this, or like I myself, it's like anytime you're afflicted with some sort of down moment or something difficult, you're like, do you know what? I regret this. I shouldn't have been a doctor. So the part of the tweet was it wasn't do I regret being a doctor? Was being a doctor the right thing, or like, is it for me? Shall I give up, type of thing? And obviously it stemmed from having a bad on-call shift or a night, right? So I think we need to be realistic, and it's not just for medicine, but we talk about medics because we have experience in that. Is there are going to be good days and bad days, right? And you have to understand that. Once you realize that in this career of mine or any other career, there will be days which are incredible, and we've both had it, and there'll be some days which are awful, but it's part and parcel of the career, the journey, man. I think that's important. Understanding that, certain days are going to be crap.
Exactly. You get rainy days and you get sunny days, man. We have to accept it. No, I think I completely agree with that. That's it, actually, from today's episode. I've got not much else to say on sort of career planning, the emotions that come with it, reversibility, how important diversification is, exposure. What else did we talk about?
I think the main thing is, like, we all deserve to be happy. Yeah. And if you feel you are not happy in your particular specialty, in your role, in your career, expose yourself to other specialties, other careers, see if that's more aligned, if that makes you happy, and commit to it. I'm not a big fan of, I wanted to be a surgeon, I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to be here for the next 10, 15 years and be miserable and become a consultant orthopedic surgeon, and I can bet money on it. If you don't even enjoy the process, if you don't enjoy it, when you become a consultant orthopedic surgeon, you're not going to enjoy it. I can bet money on it, right? So I don't know if medicine, like, it puts a bad narrative, but if you want to change your careers, if you're not happy, do it. Explore, put yourself out there, expose yourself.
Exactly. And I think I think what I want to end with is, there is happiness in medicine. There is happiness being a doctor. There is happiness being a consultant. But you have to have the right things around your career. Life isn't just a career. Some of the happiest consultants that I know, they're really happy. They love their job. They love being an interventional cardiologist and a general surgeon and a GP. But you'll find that they're also happy with their relationships, their exercise, and the things that they do outside of just their career. So this is not to say that you're going to be miserable in a specific specialty or in the career of medicine and surgery or whatever. It's the fact that you need to find what fits with you, and you have to make sure your eggs aren't in the one basket. Spread your eggs out, put them in all the baskets that you love, and take it from there. If you've got any comments on this video, hit them below, and we'll otherwise see you next week.